Every single step I take for you, I'll send you all my love. Every single step I take for you. Every single step I take for you. I'll send you all my love. Take Philistine. Every single step I take Philistine.
Hello, everybody. It's February 22nd. Today, my guest is Adam Oswald, and we're going to just be discussing all things.
Back after 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
Kevin's garage. A lot
Kevin's
has happened.
garage, but we're not in the garage anymore. We got some things a little bit warmer in here, more space, more stuff set up. So I'm just going to just jump into just a little check-in. How things been going? What have you been doing recently?
Well, I got the I got the best job in the universe working as a wastewater operator on McNeil Island, which is basically being paid to be on Paradise. So that's cool. Your tax dollars at work. Thank you. I'll show you some pictures. It's magic. But yeah.
Wow.
Major improvement in life, so fuck all y'all. I'm living it up on your dime.
Okay,
Yeah.
what does that look like?
Oh, I mean, that's an episode in and of itself, but McNeil is an abandoned state penitentiary, former federal penitentiary for over years. It's a post-apocalyptic landscape with a facility for sex offender residents getting treatment on the center of the island. And it's the easiest job I've ever had.
Now, for those who don't know, like, are there, like, because I'm imagining Alcatraz, and I am a resident here. I've lived here a bit, but are there still sex offenders on the island?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's almost 300. So okay. I run the water and wastewater side of it to keep the facility running, but it's an insane job, insane situation. Suits me perfectly. It's kind of unfair how job satisfied I am, considering everybody else's employment situation.
Okay.
But thank you, Washington State.
So they get kind of like Anderson Island, Orcas Island treatment.
Well, they
Not
don't.
quite.
They're locked. They're behind barbed wire under 24/7 surveillance, and if they ever want to get out, they have to undergo treatment. But this, I don't want to get into this, but so they're not running around the island having fun. They're inside a facility behind double razor wire, as they did things that got them inside that facility. They are not individuals ready to be out in the community yet.
Okay.
But that's a completely different episode.
All right.
Yeah.
Other episode.
Yeah.
So quick, farmer to farmer, because I'm a farmer, you're a farmer. What things have you been working on farm-wise?
Well, I was accidentally gifted. I picked up 3 pigs from a coworker at the new job at McNeil, and they were Kune pigs, and I didn't want them, and so I stuffed them in the back pasture, but found that they would graze instead of turn up the sod, which got my mind thinking, and somehow I found out about a breed of pig called the Maishan pig, which also is more of a grazer than a digger. And they are amazing, and I have now a female, and I'm going to get a male, and I'm going to breed them on my little spot. So I'm actually very excited about that. Amazing pigs, astoundingly mellow. They're almost like a different kind of animal than your regular pig. Incredibly gentle. Literally, when I got this piglet, I went to the farm down in Oregon to pick her up, and when you catch a piglet, usually they squeal very loudly, and you have to get them in a box or something because they're going to struggle the whole time. This piglet was like a baby, did not even squeal, and I was like, so should I get the box to the cage to take her to the car, and they're like, no, just pick her up and bring her over to your truck. And she was just in my arms, did not struggle. Didn't even struggle. Didn't even squeal. Amazing. They're so cool.
See,
You gotta meet her.
I never knew that pigs are aggressive.
They can be extreme. They'll kill people. I mean, they'll bite you. I've been bitten quite badly by my own pigs, and I've been nothing but nice to them. So,
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, pig bites suck.
Okay.
0 stars.
Well, that's something that if you go ahead with this breeding, do you think that they will end up losing that calm behavior? Or?
No, these are purebred. These are registered. So yeah, interesting story in and of itself. But I'll just say they're very rare. They're an ancient, like, Chinese heritage breed that was brought out. A herd was brought over in the 70s for experiments at universities, and then it went by the wayside, and now it's coming back, and it is the most delicious pork I have ever had in my entire life. It is like a different experience. The fat is just astounding.
Oh, I'm excited.
It's
Excited
golden.
for that.
I will give you some. It is so
Nice.
goddamn good.
They still do a good amount of digging. Are they still helpful for like gardening?
Yeah,
purposes?
if I rototill it for them, they'll do some digging, but they don't ruin pasture. It's astounding. Yeah, it's basically, there's regular pigs and there's Maishan, this variety, and they are not the same. They overlap about 50%, and the rest, it's just a different animal.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, looking forward to it.
All right. Well, I'm gonna break into some other questions here.
Yeah, because it's been 2 years.
2 years. Last time we talked, we were just kind of. It was really just the start of the Russia-Ukraine war. Now we're 2 years in, and I think at the start, it was very pro-Western time. It was very hard to even criticize or think that Ukraine could have been at fault in any way.
Yes.
You, in that interview, brought a lot of things to light, saying that, hey, think about this. Ukraine being a part of NATO is an act of aggression against its neighbor, Russia.
Yeah.
You brought up a couple things that we didn't even quite get into, like a 2014 Ukrainian coup,
Yes.
supported by the United States CIA. There's some real stuff that we didn't even quite get into, but again, now we're talking 2 years later, and I think we are experiencing some real war fatigue in the United States.
Oh boy.
And
Yes.
this original pro-Western slant might be turning a little neutral. I mean, we are seeing even like this Trump base saying, hey, if NATO countries don't pay up, we're just going to let Russia just come all over your country and just...
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that? And like...
Yeah, no, it's extremely important because
we were extremely like propaganda driven 2 years ago. It was like not acceptable.
Yeah. To say what I said.
To say what you said 2 years ago. And I was just like asking you some questions just to listen. But I understood that, hey, that would have been pretty hard to even put out there.
Yeah, you couldn't say it at work. I'll tell you that. You know,
No.
I protected myself. I don't. It's
Now you could. Now these kind of things are.
yeah.
Hey, it's just the money.
Yeah, it's
It's too expensive to go out there.
too expensive. I want my return on my investment. So if you zoom out to ask the essence of what is the United States in the world order and what is its foreign policy. What has it been ever since the fall of the Soviet Union? Where we won, even though certain thinkers like Chalmers Johnson and others say, both the Soviet Union and the United States lost. It's just that the Soviets lost first, So zoom out. What is the United States? What is the role it's been playing in the world order? Since the fall of the Soviet Union, we have been acting like the rest of the world is our hunting ground. Brown people die. We don't. We can go out and kill whoever the fuck we want. And there is no international court. There is no justice. There is no power that can just even not enforce, but even bring up the most normal human relations that should be the case between sovereign countries. Basically, we are sovereign. Nobody else is. Well, how's that working out for us? After, the destruction of Iraq, the destruction of Libya, the invasion and destruction of Afghanistan for 20 years, and then we fled with our tail between our legs, the destruction of Yemen. It goes on and on ad nauseum. And so, once again, Russia has played the role of putting a check on American ambitions. And now, within the context of 24 months, since our last podcast, it doesn't come home in the sense that everybody wakes up and suddenly reads history and understands it. The conversation changes. Now Republicans and Trump are saying we shouldn't give a single dime to Ukraine anymore because we lost all that money.
Yeah, exactly.
They all died. And so the Ukraine project is dead and Russia killed it brutally. When Russia fights wars, she fights to win. And she will kill millions and millions of people in order to win. And that is why she is so reluctant to fight beforehand and works very hard to make peace happen, or at least tone it down, because she knows what'll happen when the real war comes. This was a real war for Russia. For us, it was just another expedition. Mm-hmm. For us, it was just another coup somewhere over there on the other side of the planet, where it's just the main problem America has is that the rest of the world is foreigners.
Right. Now, just a few weeks, or just like last week, we saw their main opposition figure, and I can't believe I'm forgetting his name right now. Navalny.
Yeah. Died in prison. Yeah.
Died in prison.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have seen this coming, but...
Yeah. He's our martyr. Mm-hmm. He was... As soon as he sold out to the West and became our puppet, his fate was sealed. Mm-hmm. Most Russians, not all, most Russians support Putin in this anti-American, anti-Western hegemony, and therefore they see Navalny as a traitor. Mm-hmm. You're at war with NATO. NATO's at war with you, and you're going to oppose and join NATO? That's the definition of treason when you're at war. I don't think he was a traitor, but by talking loudly and stupidly and being pro-Western and trying to be a puppet, and then while you're in Russia, it's like, what do you think is going on? We do that all the time to our opposition people. You can't, my goodness, you can't say certain things about certain countries, otherwise you're just left out in the cold. It's the end of your career, or you're Julian Assange.
Mm-hmm. And the U.S. says they're going to oppose sanctions in a big part because of this.
Yeah, put more sanctions on. Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah.
Russia is becoming autarkic. The economic term is autarky, where you satisfy all your needs internally. Right. They're like, bring on more sanctions. Cool. We just do import substitution, and their economy is growing. Mm-hmm. And Germany's in recession. Japan is in recession. UK is in recession, and we will follow. Mm-hmm. It's inevitable.
All right. I want to move on to a huge thing that's come about in the past year, which is the Israeli-Palestine conflict,
Oh boy.
this has been really devastating. The After a terrorist attack on
October 7th.
October 7th by Hamas, there was a severe backlash by the IDF,
Yeah.
basically leading to just bombings of hospitals,
Collective punishment.
yeah, collective punishment,
Yeah.
severe
Reprisals. Yeah.
yeah, taking over, and just basically major civilian deaths, and we can see that
Yeah.
there's going to be more.
There will be.
And again, you can see that at first, support that becomes waning.
Yeah, that's true. Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Considering the past, the long past of Israeli-American relations.
Yeah. The United States, however, has refused to give up its military support. And I feel like this is something that we've continued to see, is we say that we will not support, we don't support it, but we give them the
Right.
guns.
We don't support it. We just support it with money and guns. That's all.
Yeah.
We mean well feebly.
And this is kind of what I wanted to talk about, is that we kind of move over from one conflict, like Ukraine, and we can support another conflict.
Yeah. Funny how that works.
And,
It's like,
and
go ahead.
last time we talked, you mentioned something that really spoke to me, was just that story from, now I'm going to maybe bring up something pretty personal, but a story from your teenage years about your pastor,
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
and after 9/11, and how the image that stuck in my head was waving the red flag.
Oh, yeah.
After that happened.
I didn't know that had that effect on you. That's interesting. No, he's an amazing individual.
And to me, that terrorist attack was, to me, like waving the red flag for Israel, which is militarily tied to all these companies in the United States.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, and it goes further than that, because the way we don't, you got to be careful about using rhetorical devices, because eventually the rhetorical devices start using you. And so all over Israel, and in like editorials and things, Israelis are saying the Hamas attack of October 7th was our 9/11. That is when rhetorical devices are using you. That is when the frontal cortex has shut off,
Yeah.
and you forget all history, and all of a sudden this attack came out of the blue. Gaza Strip, since the election of Hamas in 2006 or 7, was the world's largest concentration camp.
Right.
Hitler would have been very proud. Look at these brown people killing each other. It's the world's largest concentration camp, and if they dare fight back and break down the fences against the people who have stuffed them into a concentration camp, well, now it's the new 9/11. Okay, guys. If you want to keep walking down this bloody path, it's wide open. How strong is your stomach? How much longer can you stand it? Because what are you going to threaten the Palestinians with? Bombing? You're going to kill a few more? Is that going to make a difference? This is how it ends. If you refuse to believe in the humanity of your enemies or rivals or the other, if you refuse to ever contemplate a viable, functional Palestinian state, if you refuse to accept that there are other civilizations and other people, and that they are legitimate, they are autonomous, they are sovereign, then it will end in the most pathetic, brutal, genocidal campaign where you can do nothing more than bomb them and hunt them with drones like animals ad nauseum until, I guess, you run out of bombs.
Right. And of course, the United States is investing more in their military spending this year
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, here's
due
a
to
point.
global instability.
Oh yeah, yeah. Quote instability created by us. We're the unstable ones.
Right.
We are acting extremely unstably, and we have been for a long time. Even the Wall Street Journal made the point that 155 millimeter artillery shells were diverted from the Ukraine war to Israel so that Israel could kill Palestinians. And therefore that jeopardized our efforts in Ukraine. Oh, really? Did it?
Mm-hmm.
Do you actually understand military affairs? Do you care? Do you actually care? No, of course not. Mm-hmm. And now, and it's getting to the point where the gloves are off, You talk to any right-winger and just keep asking questions, and eventually you'll get them to usually say, we should just nuke them. We should just nuke them all. I'm like, cool, good. I knew that's what you thought. Everybody does.
Right. Okay. This is a really heavy conversation.
Yeah.
This is a good time to take a break.
Okay.
But I really appreciate it. Let's take a break now.
Sure.
Again, you're listening to Kevin's Garage.
Billions of listeners.
Every single step I take for you. First thing, I'll send you all my love. First thing, I'll send you all my love. First thing, I'll send you all my love. When I'm far away, I'll send you all my love. First thing.
What?
So we hadn't seen each other in a while. We were talking before your concert, and you were talking about you had just visited Kenya, and that the visit there had...
I'm gonna grab my beer, but keep going.
Yeah. So you had said that it had piqued... Visiting Kenya had piqued a lot of interest into this episode we had done 2 years ago, and that struck me as very interesting. So I'm just curious, what did you see that made you say that to me?
Wow. Okay. So I went to Kenya I guess it was 2 months ago. And this was maybe the most amazing trip of my life. It's got to be the most amazing trip of my life.
Nice.
And we could talk about it in relationship to the things that we normally talk about, but first I'm going to talk about farmer to farmer, because sometimes we got to talk about that.
Fair enough.
Okay, so first of all, I had such big anxiety going into it because I could not find a chicken sitter.
Oh.
I could not find anyone to take care of my chickens 2 weeks ahead of time. I was worried. The first person bailed out on me. And then finally, I could find somebody who was a neighbor. They were great. And then another friend. But that's beside the point. When I finally get to Kenya, I realized that people are kind of letting their chickens just go on garbage dumps and just eat scraps and drink out of puddles, and that's like Kenyeji chicken. That's the style of raising chickens.
Yeah.
They let them live for 2 years, raise their own little baby birds, and then kill them and eat them. And the strong ones survive.
Yeah. Well, and the cool thing about that, because that's also the case in like Guatemala and Ecuador and whatnot, everybody in the neighborhood knows whose chickens are whose. So a flock comes in and they're like, "Oh, that's Bob's chickens," you know, and then they forage around.
So that they don't interbreed too.
Well, I mean, it's this hilarious communal ownership. The chickens are loose, but everybody knows where they are, and they know whose flock is whose. Just
right.
Beautiful.
It's an amazing style of raising chickens because
it's the best.
You don't have to worry. And I don't know. I was just like, I came back just being like, why am I worrying so much about my chickens?
Well, it's good. That means you're a conscientious person.
Right.
But you know.
Right,
So,
but I definitely spent a little bit too much. My chickens are a little pampered.
Well, yeah. I mean, so are my pigs and goats. I mean, it's the same way.
They have goats too.
But,
Goats definitely their favorite food over there.
Yeah, hell yeah. It's delicious.
So more about Kenya. Let's see. Things I noticed right away. Kenya's growing. It's growing unplanned.
Yeah.
The things that people complain about mostly are government corruption.
Mm-hmm.
Because kind of money goes in, but things don't really get built in the right way.
Yeah.
So, for example, things are building up like fast, like buildings.
Oh my God, yeah.
But not roads. Like maybe private roads, but
probably not sewer systems.
No.
Yeah.
Like slums are building.
Yeah.
And like buildings are buildings, but not the smoke alarms or anything.
The other infrastructure, the supporting infrastructure.
So you see, I don't know, like you see massive traffic jams and things like that. But and I wanted to talk a little bit about the foreign investment that I see. I have seen just evidence of Chinese investment.
Yes.
More recently, I have seen evidence of Japanese investment or a wave of Japanese investment that came probably earlier. I don't know if it is still around, but it probably came earlier based on the vehicles I see.
Oh, sure.
So a lot of like Isuzu trucks and things like that.
Sure.
And just technology, but more recently Chinese technology. In the door locks and the water heaters, things like that.
Sure.
TVs.
Affordable appliances.
Yeah, just affordable wiring systems. And also, I see some interesting Russian things. And the interesting Russian things I see are the weapons.
Okay, interesting.
The two times I saw Russian weapons, I think, were just kind of hanging out with the guys. One time, someone kind of flashed his Soviet knife.
Hell yeah.
And he was just like, "Hey, look at my sharp knife." And it had just a Soviet marking. And then another time was after I was at an ATM, and I was followed by a guy with like an AK-47. And I think it was just a way for the bank to make me feel like, okay, this is a secure bank. Look.
So he was a security guard
or
something. Oh, okay. Followed by a guy.
There are security guards everywhere.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And it's because there's kind of a lack of police. There's more private security.
Yes.
And I think it's a way for the bank to prove like, hey, we have armed security guards. Look at how secure our bank is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
As opposed to a bank that has a security guard with a bully club.
Yeah.
If you want to pull out, 20,000 Kenyan shillings or 30,000 Kenyan shillings, do it here where the guy has a AK-47.
Yeah.
Whether it works or not, whether he's ever fired it or not,
Yeah.
the guy has a big gun.
Yeah. It's all the symbolism. Yeah.
And and one part of it is, I think, just the police are generally unarmed. And I don't see weapons that often. It's just that when you do see them, they are these old munitions. They generally tend to be Russian.
Yeah.
I don't know where they come from.
Well.
And but it makes you think. It makes you think, okay, could these have been traded from...
Well, the AK-47 is like the most ubiquitous. I mean, it's the anti-Western gun,
right? So
flooded the world.
So what was the root, and what are your thinkings of what the root may have been from to get to Kenya?
Oh man, that is. Okay, like that. No offense, that's an impossible question to ask.
Yeah, Kenya is next to like a country like what's the one that's in civil war right now? Sudan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's running through. There's the Wagner Group that's trading munitions with the DRC.
Yep.
Russia's supporting countries like Syria, and then there's like Libya in Africa.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm thinking
these aren't. It's not a Gordian knot to be untied. Like it defies analysis. Mm-hmm. And the thing, like, that's why I'm saying, like, I have no idea how to answer that question. I can look at the question itself, but there's no answer to it, because you have a situation where the Soviet Union has collapsed. And I mean, they lost track of some of their radioactive material, their nuclear material. They would have stations in the Arctic that were powered by nuclear, little mini radio isometrics, whatever it's called, radio thermoelectric generators that are supposed to be sitting on an island in the Arctic taking weather measurements or God knows what. They lost track of that. Mm-hmm. So in a certain sense, and somebody said that it's the right way to think about it. They said the Soviet Union is still collapsing.
Okay,
The Russian Federation is rising, but the Soviet Union is still collapsing. See?
Oh.
Rhetorical. Do you use rhetorical devices to help clear the air and think about things, or rhetorical devices are they using you? In 1989, the Soviet Union was the mighty evil empire, and then in 1992, what? Did it happen or not? Is the Soviet Union gone? No, it's still collapsing. You could argue the Roman Empire is still collapsing. Nobody's maintaining those old ancient marble buildings, right?
Yes, that's right.
And we're still living in the legacy of the collapse of the Roman Empire, believe it or not.
Yes.
We are speaking a hybrid, Germanic Romance language right now as we speak. The Chinese Empire has never collapsed. They've never had a break in their continuity. They are still speaking Chinese, which is a descendant of Middle Chinese, which is a descendant of Old Chinese, and they have never had a break in continuity in their culture in 4,000 plus years. So they're still China.
Have to think about that for a second. The Roman Empire is still collapsing. It's so interesting to think about. You can sit in collapsing Roman buildings.
Yeah.
Have a little picnic in different places in the world.
And look at them, and it makes you think, hopefully. There were one of the, just anecdotes, in the city of Bath, England, which is named after the Roman baths because people took baths there because there was a hot spring that made the baths nice. After the Roman army withdrew and you had sub-Roman Britain, there were ruins of people. They had built houses in the bottom of the baths because, hey, 4 secure walls. All I need is a roof, good drainage. no water going in anymore. Living in a bath, in Bath. So to ask like what's going on in Africa right now. Well, Africa is currently and is going to be the next great frontier of the struggle between the quote Western-led world order and the Sino-Russian alliance, and they're struggling over that. And you have local people struggling for their own autonomy to not pick sides. But zooming out. You talked about the infrastructure, and that's so good because they have internet access and cell phones 24/7, but
Yes.
not clean drinking water, maybe, and not sewer systems. So that's an extraordinary interface where you have almost full literacy, almost full internet access, and these other things, but not the more basic, older type first and second industrial revolution infrastructure. So when they take off, when they throw off the shackles and start rising on their own, and they're doing it, they will leapfrog. They will benefit from the lessons learned that England, when it first industrialized, and the United States and Western Europe, when they industrialized, they will have learned the lessons of those and can fold it into it. Oh, we want sewer systems. England had to figure out that they needed sewer systems.
One way that I believe that Africa has a leapfrog future
Oh, yeah.
is in their education.
Oh, absolutely.
And I was talking to this little girl. We were going on a safari, and as an educator, I was just like, "What do you study?" Or what's your favorite subject? And she was like, "I love science." And I know that in the United States, we unfortunately view science as an afterthought.
We do.
Especially as NAFTA is kind of our, even in Washington with Boeing and Amazon, as we should have tech and Boeing like at the forefront. We should be studying science a lot. But
Yes.
It's at the end of the day, we barely give it enough time in our elementary schools. She studies it for an hour a day.
Yeah, it's brutal.
This little African child with maybe not the most resources is studying it an hour a day.
Yep. You're killing me right now. You're so right. I've also been to other countries. I've been to Guatemala, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, and I know from personal experience that my own science background and like the study of nature is orders of magnitude more appreciated in those cultures than my own.
Yes.
And I remember them looking at me like, "Oh, you know this stuff," because most Americans don't. And I can tell from personal experience that American culture in the aggregate, on average, is not only not curious about the world, they are anti-curious about the world. And they are suspect of anybody who is curious about the world.
Yeah, one thing I did see a lot of is their ability to harness water.
Sure.
Even though there's not water, but just rain barrels everywhere. Just their future is setting up systems that will help lead them into the future, even though their governments are
Sure.
not helping them with that.
Yeah, so like you're talking about like scenes you saw and like rain barrels and like rooftop collection in Nairobi, kind of specifically.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
A lot of plants. Just everywhere you look, just plants being grown.
Sure. On the windowsills, on the
but
balconies.
No, like next to, next to trains. And
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Every space is used.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds like Ecuador.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember seeing corn growing up from inside the foundations of houses that had burned down. Mm-hmm. They're like, well, yeah, the house burned down. We're gonna have to fix it up. But in the meantime, I can get a crop or two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to use that space.
Yeah. No, and the leapfrog will be extraordinary because human nature is infinite and eternal. And so the cycles of, like rise and fall, long periods of disunity lead to unity. Long periods of unity lead to stagnation and corruption and sometimes disintegration. You know, like China understands this perfectly well with the cycles of dynasties, you know, and other societies understand it as well. And so, yeah, all the benefits of it's just waiting, isn't it? It's just that spark right there. And the average citizen is ready for it. They're hungry for it. You know, give me that prime minister or that parliament or that series of elections that's going to throw off the corruption. And then they're going to, and then it would just be stunning. In 5 years, in 10 years, the sewer lines get put in, the drinking water systems get put in, you know. Oh, it's just right there.
Now, one thing I was noticing about just the economy there is just the U.S. dollar was constantly rising against their economy.
Yeah.
Which was unfortunate.
Hurts them terribly.
It hurts them.
Yeah.
It's just constantly spiking. Up until maybe just recently. There was just, I would say, like a week ago or something, it spiked back down.
Sure.
Which is just kind of a sign of growth for them. Maybe it bounced back, but
yeah,
you never know how these things are going to work out for them. But in Kenya, still, it's seen like a steady against the dollar. Just what do we see with the U.S. dollar,
right,
versus the global economy? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I mean, there's this marvelous book by Chao Liang called Unrestricted Warfare. He's a communist Chinese CCP member, military philosopher and thinker, and he wrote it in 1998, I think. Fascinating book. And he made the point that probably the most significant development of the 20th century was the U.S. taking itself off the gold standard in 1971 by Richard Nixon, and the establishment, therefore, because of the petrodollar, the same year, the establishment of the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency. The basic fundamentals of that is the United States said we will no longer exchange dollars for gold.
Right.
Terrible mistake. But then they said, we're going to go to Saudi Arabia, which dominates the world's oil market, and coerce them into saying we will only accept U.S. dollars for our oil. It's very odd. Not Saudi rials, but U.S. dollars. Therefore, every country in the world, which all of them need oil, has to stockpile U.S. dollars in order to buy and interact with the world's oil market.
So I want to take just a quick second to think about this. Kenya may have been needing these dollars for U.S. oil to build their economy.
They needed U.S. dollars for Saudi oil to build their economy. And just not even build, don't even say build their economy, to exist.
Right.
Oil is the lifeblood of every economy. You cannot. I drove here. Every object in your house got here by oil. Mm-hmm. It is the oxygen.
With this most recent dip, I wonder what could be the cause of that.
Oh, God.
Huge dip.
I would say, don't worry. When I listen to Luke, some of the episodes of Luke and I, to see whether things I said were correct or not, if they panned out, getting lost in the minutia is really ugly. The most recent dip, no idea. Speculators, who cares? I don't know. But you have, again, zoom out, zoom out, zoom out. The United States is only 5% of the world's population. And we, therefore, do not have enough economic clout to actually be the world's reserve currency. And so what you're observing right now is the ending of that process. And whoever gets out, the people who get out, it's a game of musical chairs. Whoever gets out sooner does better. And so what happens is small, economically weak, vulnerable countries like Kenya, no question about it, relative to behemoths like the United States or China, whatever. The value of their local internal currency is extremely vulnerable to external fluctuations. A great way to kill a country is to have speculators within the Western world, Wall Street, start betting against their currency. And then their government is trapped because the value of their currency starts tanking. That means inflation starts rising. Then how do you get more foreign exchange reserves, accumulating dollars or gold or yuan or whatever you need in order to counteract those speculators? So we have currency speculators and the Mordor monster that is Wall Street that is able to go around and with the clicks of buttons and bets, shorts, longs, financial speculation ruin countries, and they're just kind of stuck, and they sit there like, oh, well, due to the rules of the game, we cannot lift ourselves out of poverty by our own efforts because we're basically an area to be harvested by the dollar. The dollar is used as a weapon to harvest the labor of poor people.
Wow. All right. Well, with that, we're gonna take one more short break. We're gonna come back, and it's gonna be kind of a free for all. I'm gonna just let you talk about whatever you want to talk about until the end of the segment. So.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
This is Kevin's Garage.
Tukwenda dhayo, tukwenda dhayo, tukwenda dhayo, tukwenda dhayo wangai. We want the peace, we want the peace, we want the peace, we want the peace of the Lord. Wakana dayo, wakana dayo, wakana dayo, wakana dayo wangai. Dayo wa dayo, dayo wa dayo, dayo wa dayo, dayo wa dayo wangai.
Because losing a hide is like watching an animal die. It really sucks. Because they're like dragging out each other's bodies and they'll like drag out pupae and stuff. It's really horrible. But, because, yeah.
All right. So, last segment. We're back.
Yeah.
With Kevin's Garage. And February 22nd, 2024. So, it's pretty much free for all. What did you want to talk about in this last segment?
Yeah. How much time do we have? Is it like...
I would say this is the last 20-minute segment.
20 minutes?
Yeah. Maybe 10 minutes. Who knows?
Yeah.
10 to 20.
Well, there's a lot... It's very easy to get lost in minutia and like battlefield advances or gains or airstrikes in places like Ukraine or Gaza Strip that people will use when rhetorical devices are using you. They'll say, but what about this? What about thing X that happened? Therefore, Russia is evil. And it's like, well, okay, but they are at war. Or therefore Ukraine is evil. They also are at war, like I I don't support the dismemberment of Ukraine, but it's too late, you know. So in the context of like US dollar, Western dominance, what's going on in the world and the role we, the quote West, have been playing for far too long, is that we could, it's like the end of the British Empire. That really is one of the better lenses to think about it, because nobody can give you an exact date on when the British Empire came to an end, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's sure. It wasn't one battle. It wasn't the Battle of Adrianople. It wasn't the sack of Rome, you know, where you can pinpoint a date and say, this is when it ended. This is what happened. 1453, fall of Constantinople. The British Empire just sort of faded away, and now it's, you know, money laundering operation through its former colonies in places like the Bahamas and others. And something broadly similar is happening to the United States because we blew it. We blew it so badly. And when something fades away, this is what it's like. You are experiencing it now when there are no hard dates. There are no hard decisions that have been made. There's no Rubicons to cross. There's no storming of the Bastille, you know. There's no center of culture or civilization that presents a culture or civilization with hard choices.
What about like January 6th?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because half of the country sees January 6th one way and the other half sees it a different way, right? And maybe I'm wrong, you know, but if you think about it, the January 6th has not had revolutionary implications. It's all devolved into the courts and locking some people away, who are, as far as it goes, they were just useful morons, you know?
Right. It was just like, you know, you mentioned storming of the Bastille, but it had implications on kind of where we're at now.
Yeah.
And building up some sort of, you know, how do we view our how does the general population view our electoral system? And I know it's been broken with gerrymandering for quite some time now.
Oh boy. Yeah.
But now it's seriously exposed for okay, this can really be broken and overthrown.
Yeah, and like as a member of the working bureaucracy, you know, I am an employee of the state of Washington. I can say that it is this. It's not even sentient. It's not a slug moving. Bleh. It's a glacier. You know, it's just a force of nature responding to gravity, and it's extremely difficult to make any positive changes. And I can say that as a former City of Tacoma employee as well. So that, granted, you know, when a Republican or somebody who stormed Capitol Hill on January 6th says, our system needs change, I'm like, I hear you, brother. I really do. You know, you're absolutely right. But, number one, that's not the way to do it. That wasn't what you were doing that for yourself. You know, you're not a freedom fighter. And number two, I seriously mean this as somebody who's been thinking about it for a very long time, especially since, you know, the invasion of Iraq. I don't know how to change it. I truly don't. Elect Bernie Sanders, he would have been subsumed into the beast anyway. You know, it's a very history books and other countries are going to look back on the American experiment of like, okay, we're not sure what the hell that was, but here's some 3 simple rules that you just don't do. Don't break them. Number 1, very seriously, I seriously mean this. If you make your currency the world's reserve currency, it's the kiss of death for your own domestic economy. Because your exports will never, ever be competitive against other exports in the future. There's an economic principle called like the Dutch disease, which economists, with a lowercase e, noticed when the Netherlands discovered their big oil and natural gas field. It caused other parts of their diversified economy to wither away because all the money was coming out of oil and natural gas. So why actually invest in other sectors of your economy? The oil and gas kind of ate the rest of the Dutch economy. Very interesting case, because before that, the Dutch economy was quite diverse: agriculture, manufacturing, those things. Well, economists are going to talk about the American disease because think about it, oil and natural gas still has to get sold for dollars overseas, but it still wrecked other aspects of the Dutch economy. The American dollar destroyed the American economy. Terrible. And now you're stuck with a situation where you have to go and kill people and fight people, not for even natural resources, but just to make them keep using the dollar. There goes your foreign policy. There goes your freedom of action. Your entire existence as a nation. You're never going to have high-speed rail. You're never going to have a molten salt reactor. You're going to fall behind technologically. But goddamn, you have to fight for the dollar to make sure other people use it. Saddam Hussein, the day before we invaded, was going to start trading oil and other currencies. Muammar Gaddafi started pushing for an African trade bloc that used gold to... You sold oil for gold instead of dollars.
Steer me away if you want to talk about something else.
Yeah.
But if the American empire is falling quicker than you think, or is falling...
Yeah.
And we're talking about gas and oil not being at the top of the world.
Yeah.
Or are these two things totally different, or rhetorical, not related? Because I feel like the United States is really interested in oil and gas. Who's next at being the next empire in control? Oh. And what is their major interest?
Okay, well, obviously the next quote empire is the Russian-Chinese alliance. It's not even an alliance, it's a symbiosis. No two countries have ever had their interests more naturally aligned. And so there's a Glaznev is his name. He's a Russian, what is he? Minister of something. I don't even know. It doesn't even matter. They have already started laying the actual digital and legal groundwork for a non-US dollar denominated international trade. And there's very little we can actually do, the West, can do about it. Because, well, they have nukes.
Right.
And they're just so fed up with this that and frankly, the U.S. empire it's not about to die. It is dying. It's in its death throes. And you have things, therefore, like domestic inflation. This is a problem. We were able to export our inflation because we could sell infinite dollars and foreigners would buy them up. Treasuries, dollars themselves. Foreigners were stockpiling dollars. Therefore, those dollars weren't in circulation, driving up inflation. And now inflation is what everybody's talking about. And what it does is it increasingly traps you. Every turn of the ratchet shortens the length or lengthens the next lever. It clicks faster the next time because you kicked the can, and then the can rolled and accumulated and it got heavier. So you kick it again and it hurts your foot a little more. And so you have things like treasury auctions in the United States are starting to get a little funny. It's not the way it's always been. The rates are having to go a little higher. And because the Federal Reserve has had to raise interest rates. That raises the interest rates we have to pay on the national debt, which means there's $1 trillion a year just on interest. 12 months, 1 trillion. 24 months, 2 trillion. Another 12 months, another $1 trillion. That's just interest, only interest. And so, if an empire, if a society, if a civilization, if a regime is unwilling to contemplate anything other than another kick of the can down the road, finally, zooming out, what happens is they kick the can and their foot breaks and the can doesn't move. And then always what happens is the middle class disappears, the poor people pay for it, and the rich fly away. So, and that is what is happening as we speak, as we look at it right now. Like
in a SpaceX shuttle.
Yeah, yep. Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos have a child together. The ultra capitalist, even though there's no such thing as capitalism, there's just the status quo.
Have you seen what like Dubai looks like?
Of course, yeah. I spend all day on the internet.
No, just like a map.
Yeah,
like, or
those islands that they build out in the middle of, horrifying.
Wow.
Why would you do that? Have you ever heard of child poverty? Could you have invested that money somewhere else?
Just like they literally build like yacht docks out there.
Yep.
Out of like Google Maps the place.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes.
Absolutely.
It is incredible.
I'll give you another Google map. Look at western Texas, parts of eastern New Mexico, where the fracking boom happened. Also North Dakota. I'll show you when we're done. It looks like smallpox. That's the fracking boom.
Wow.
Pad after pad after pad after pad. They drill a fracking well. They frack it. They inject it with all that sand and liquid and hydrocarbon shit. And it produces a lot of oil and then is almost depleted. It declines to a couple hundred barrels a day within 12 months. So they have to keep doing it and doing it. It's the Red Queen, and she's running faster and faster and faster on a treadmill. And the faster she runs, the faster it speeds up. And it's like, lady, all you have to do is slow down and think about what it really zoom out, really zoom out. The power of science and technology is there waiting for humanity to put to rest all the nightmares of our past. And the United States, which helped inaugurate that, it wasn't the only one, but it was a major player in it, is literally turning away from the benefits of science so that we can reenact the Old Testament on the Gaza Strip. You're reading all the wrong stories, folks. You think God's going to come down and reestablish Israel and bring the end times? What are you doing? You're reading all the wrong Iron Age stories. And literally, because of the character of American culture, depending on where you're talking about, Midwest, South, whatever, it's breaking the country apart. Because in the South, in places like, didn't Alabama just say that embryos are children? The Supreme Court ruled that? Oh, cool. Good job. You bring back animal sacrifice. Why not? Sacrifice bulls and goats and chickens to whatever. I don't care.
That again is a whole other show.
Yes, it is a whole other show, but it shows you what's happening to the United States.
Right.
And these Republicans, these country people, whatever, they're starting to choose to go back to the Iron Age, almost literally. Mm-hmm. You talk to some of them who are Christian fundamentalists, and they want it to happen, and it's like, no, I'd rather have free electricity with a molten salt reactor and high-speed rail. And
the return of the theocracy is quite something. So
yeah, but that's the choice that's facing us because we failed to be a global empire, because it was never in our nature. Just catastrophic failure. Probably the worst turning point in American history was the death of FDR, Roosevelt, at the end of World War II, because he was openly opposed to Churchill and really pissing Churchill off, where he's like, no, we're not going to do this anymore. Whatever you Brits were trying to do failed. and we're not going to bail you out. And Churchill was like, no, we need to keep India. What? It's 1945, bro. Yeah, you're not going to keep India. And that's all. And then Roosevelt had a stroke. Franklin Roosevelt, our greatest president by far. And Truman instead, basically Truman bailed out the British Empire and became the new British Empire. And if you look at the overlap, the Venn diagram of like where U.S. military bases are, it kind of overlaps with the old British Empire, which is a stupid idea. And things are just openly said that the Five Eyes is like the CIA's group of intelligence sharing people. Oh, who are they? America, Britain, New Zealand, Australia, and Canada. Huh. Who does that sound like? It's the parts of the British Empire that were successfully permanently settled by English speakers.
Yeah.
Good job, guys. Good job. Who are you going to tell what to do anymore, you know? And the rest of the world is just sick of this nonsense.
All right. Well, we are at the end of our time. So
fun.
Just wanted to any last thoughts first of all?
No, go. No.
Okay. Well, thank you, Adam Oswald, for being here today.
Yeah.
Hope that we can do this again.
Thanks for having
soon. Again, this is Kevin's garage or Kevin's living room, however you want to go here today. And hopefully we'll be back sometime soon. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Nadirenda menyangirie nyita gwatea mujara wakwa na mutumia kioru kinyakaire tu bengi tononda toreaga ciothe igathira.
Music for this week's episode is provided by Kindness and Joseph Kamaru. For more information, you can find their music at bandcamp.com.
Mutumia ichembe kaire tu motongina Kerea bibi no yendirie ya mwaro Muro wa maito oi mama nyani kioru Wamweriria gokua gire gya tuta Ogethie wera kano gethie kwa memba Na makerere rwa mochindaga kendo noti Takwerire ungombere ngiritano Ukenjera no unjarereirie bengi Ngajurie taito neguo ngomberwo mbeca Tarina mwaka gĩcinga gĩkĩhiũha Mũgondo kĩendio nĩ bengi ndĩ mũrwaru Ndĩraigua moka